What's going on? This is the Culture Podcast with your boy Kylan Alexander, and this is the day 3 NFL draft pick reaction. We had a little bit of a setback. I was supposed to have somebody on, and some things came up. Shit happens. So we're gonna go ahead and get into these day 3 picks. So because day 3 of the draft is so long, rounds 4 through 7, I'm not going to do what I've done previously and go through every single pick. I have a decent sized list of some of the picks that I like from day 3 because there's a ridiculous amount of picks. There's over 100. Let me see. There's 4, so 4 times 32, and there's compensatory picks and all that, so there's a lot of picks, like 150 plus. So we'll just get started with Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's a receiver out of USC. He is Equanimous St. Brown's younger brother. He went to the Packers 3 years ago, and I guess they have good genes. Now he's a lot smaller than his brother. His brother's like 6'3", 6'4". I think he's like 5'10". But he's smooth. He doesn't do like anything really well, but he's a solid receiver. Like he's one of those you would love him on your team, just because he's gonna do everything that you need him to do. He's not gonna drop balls. He's gonna block. He's gonna run good routes, not great route. Like I said, he doesn't do anything great, but he does everything good. So he went to the Detroit Lions. So I like that pick. They needed to refill that receiver room. They had Kenny Galladay leave, and they didn't really address the receiver room that much. They brought in Tyrell Williams, but he's kind of like a number 2, number 3 receiver. And then we have another receiver, Tylan Wallace, going to the Ravens, and they doubled down on a receiver after picking Rashad Weaver in the first round. I said Rashad Weaver, excuse me. That's my next person on the list. They picked, what's his name? Rashad Bateman. There we go. So I like to double down on receiver. He's another like bigger bodied. He's not a big receiver in terms of the height, but another bigger bodied receiver. 5'10", I think, 5'10", 5'11". 210-ish. I think that's about what he came in at. So he's another come over the middle. He'll have some outside production also. But so I like that double down at receiver because the Ravens desperately need people to come across the middle. They have a bunch of smaller receivers. So I definitely like that pick. And then we have Rashad Weaver, went to the Titans, and he was one of those. I think he was about where he was going to get picked, but he's not like super explosive, but he gets the job done. You need pass rushers that just get the job done. Sacks in college usually translate to sacks in the NFL, unless you're playing like lower level and you're not explosive or anything like that. That doesn't really translate. But if you're beating like the upper echelon of people in college, you'll at least be decent in the league. Then we have I have a few like two picks, so I clumped them together just because they went to the same team in the same round, or just on day 3. So we have the Broncos, and they picked Caden Stearns and Jamar Johnson. And those are 2 safeties, and they're similar. and I didn't think that the Broncos needed. I mean, they have Justin Simmons, and no, they have Kareem Jackson too. So these guys are going to be a little bit more developmental. But I like both their games. Jamar Johnson's a little bit more of a cover guy. Caden Stearns he's going to be a little bit more of like a big nickel, box safety, money backer. Like a nickel or money backer, dime backer. That'll be his role, I'm assuming. But I like both of those picks. I would have loved one of those guys to go to the Chargers because we needed at least an extra body or two in the safety room. But yeah, so I like both of those picks. And then unfortunately, the Chiefs had a pretty good draft also, and these two picks. I mean, like Creed Humphrey was a good pick, but I think that these are probably the two best picks. They picked Cornell Powell and Trey Smith. And Cornell Powell, he's one of those late bloomers. A lot of people when they don't get any love at the school they went to, they usually transfer out, and he stayed put. Clemson's been putting out some dogs at receiver, and unfortunately, he was just there behind him, and he had a really good year this past year. And like dude he's built, he's jacked, but he's also one of the reasons why I like this pick so much is because he is different from what the Chiefs already have. The Chiefs have they're pretty much all speed at receiver. And he's a little bit slower, but he's a precision guy. He's going to be a possession guy. He runs pretty good routes. He's aggressive. He's a great blocker at receiver. He'll play special teams, all that good stuff. He's a dog. I like that pick. And then Trey Smith from Tennessee, he fell because of medical reasons. He had, I want to say it was a blood clot in his lungs at some point. I don't remember how long ago. But yeah, so that's why he fell. People were thinking before they found out about the blood clots and whatnot, he was going to be a second or a third round pick. That's great value. I think they got him in the 6th round. So, another good value pick. And then the next pick is Stone Forsythe, and he went to Seattle. And I didn't really like the rest of their draft. They only had 3 picks because they keep trading their first rounders for players, and they traded their 3rd rounder this year. They traded their first and their 3rd round this year for Jamal Adams, and they might have traded another first. I don't remember what that trade was, but yeah. So they only had 3 picks, and this was their 2nd pick, I do believe, or hell, it might have been their 3rd. But he's a good developmental. At worst, developmental. He'll sit for a year or 2, and then he'll start. But good pass blocker. He needs to work on his run blocking a little bit. But I love that pick for them. The other 2 picks were questionable, but I really like that pick for them. And then we have Quincy Roche from Miami, and he went to the Steelers. And I feel like every year, I feel like they take a pass rusher. And so I want to say, was it Alex Highsmith they took last year? Took for him to develop. And then Quincy Roche, he's one of those, he's kind of in that Rashad Weaver mold where he's not super athletic, but he gets the job done. He gets to the quarterback consistently. He filled in for Gregory Rousseau for Miami. He opted out because of COVID. and he made him some money. Now he still went in the later rounds because of the lack of athleticism and size, but I think the Steelers are a good place for him. And then I have one on here that's it's not really a pick that I like. Excuse me. It's not really a pick that I liked because of the player, because it's a long snapper. Excuse me. Because it's a long snapper. His name is Thomas Fletcher. And the Panthers drafted him. Excuse me. But the reason why I put him on here is because of, teams put out they record the phone calls for when players get drafted. They record those, and this was this phone call was hilarious because a lot of long snappers don't usually get drafted. He got drafted and he couldn't believe it, and just his reaction was priceless. So I would say, if you haven't seen it already, go look up Thomas Fletcher of the Panthers on Twitter or YouTube or something like that, and I think you would enjoy his reaction to him getting drafted. And then moving on to Kylan Hill of the Packers. It's not spelled the same, but I love hearing Kylan around, even when it's not spelled the same. But he was another. He played a few games and then sat out the rest of the season. And he was helping. He was fighting for. He went to Mississippi State, and he was fighting to get the Confederate flag removed from the Mississippi State flag. So that was one of the things he was working on, and so I respect that. He went to the Packers, and they let what's his name, Jamal Williams. They let him walk in free agency, and so they needed a third back. They have Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon, so I like that pick, and they got him in the 7th round, and he was supposed to be. He was nice. He was kind of like Clyde Edwards-Helaire-ish, maybe, and probably with a little bit more juice. Well, not probably, with a little bit more juice, a little bit more speed. So from what I remember, they were looking at him, like 2nd, 3rd round-ish, before, he sat out. And then we have Brevin Jordan from the Texans, and he was a surprise drop, as far as, from like because I have no inside information. I can only go off of what the media and those with the media and scouts and everything, what they say. And they were thinking he was going to be a 3rd rounder. I want to say he went in the 5th round. He went to the Texans. And it's more that I like the player, not the fit, because I don't know what the hell the Texans are going to do. You really don't know unless Deshaun Watson plays. The Texans are going to be terrible anyway. So those are my favorite day 3 picks. And then I have a few UDFAs, which is an undrafted free agent. So like right after the draft, well, hell, yeah, it's basically right after the draft. Some teams get started a little bit early, after their last pick. But right after the draft, there's, a lot of guys that don't get drafted because there's only one. I think it's a 1% league. 1% of the people make it. So like, you don't get drafted, you are automatically in the UDFA pool. And some of these, there's out of all the people that did sign as a UDFA, I only wrote down 6 because I mainly just study the draft. I don't scout like way out. I say scout. I don't read or pay attention or watch film on people way out there. So I have 6 names for UDFA's, and the first one is Marvin Wilson, and he was one of those. So this time last year, people were saying that he was going to be first round pick, and he let his body get a little sloppy, and just like the effort wasn't there, so he ended up going undrafted, which is that's rough going from more than likely being a first round pick to being being undrafted. But he went to the Browns, but he got a huge contract. I want to say for an undrafted free agent, it was 160 and like 30,000 signing bonus. So I mean that's really good. That's more than some of the 7th rounders will get, and some of the 6th rounders, until they make the team officially. And then we have Charles Snowden. He went to the Bears, and he was one of those. A lot of people had him going, like 5th, maybe 6th round, and he ended up going undrafted. He was intriguing to me. He was it was one of those where I would have liked the Chargers to take a swing on him. So he's 6'7". He's an edge player, but he can drop in the zone. And I mean, he was pretty disruptive in college. He went to Virginia Tech, and so I would have loved for that. 6'7", can drop in the zone, so you can do a lot of things with an edge rusher who's decent at zone coverage. So I would have liked that. He went to the Bears, and then here's actually another one who, at one point in time, was looked at as a first round pick. It was Dylan Moses. So he was like, I want to say like 8th. Well, no, he's like a child superstar. And then, coming out of high school, I want to say I remember an article that they were comparing him to like the level of like a Bo Jackson, like LeBron James. Like he was like a freak, one of a kind athlete. And so he went to Alabama. He tore up his knee 2 years ago. Or wait, was it 2 years ago or last year? Like, so not this past season, but the season before that, he tore his knee up. And a lot of people thought that he should have just went into the draft because that film was good. And like tearing ACLs and things of that nature at this point in time people tend to not care as much. Like you might fall around or something like that, but they're easier fixes obviously than they were 10, 20 years ago. But his film, his play just wasn't as good as it was. And, some people just need a little bit more time after, a significant injury like that. And then another one I liked was Trill Williams. He went to the Saints, and he was one where people thought, he might go 5th, 6th round, and people thought he was going to get drafted. And obviously he didn't. He's a corner. I thought he had some decent film, but yeah, like I said, not everybody can get drafted. And actually, hell, here's another person that at one point was looked at as a first rounder. That's Jamie Newman. He played at Wake Forest, and he transferred to Georgia. He graduated at Wake Forest, transferred to Georgia, and then decided to sit out. And like this time last year, he had good film at Wake Forest. He super athletic. He's like 4.5 quarterback, nice built dude. He looks like a running back. But he sat out, and I'm pretty sure he had some bad workouts, this draft season, and so he ended up going undrafted. He went to the Eagles, and then my last one, his name is Cade Johnson, and he went to the Seahawks. And what I told my boy Carlo, I told him that this was their best pickup of the weekend. If you go look at Cade Johnson Senior Bowl one-on-one highlights, I mean, he's putting people on the ground. And it's not like a they kind of trip. No, he is taking ankles. So I love that that pickup for them. I don't remember how much he got, but I did like that. So that's my rundown for day 3. I want to go back and just kind of revisit some of these other picks that I like. It was going to be a great back and forth between me and my guy. I would have loved for you guys to hear his thoughts, because we talked a little bit about it, and it was a good back and forth. So let's just go back some of my favorite picks from the weekend. Trey Lance, I love that pick. Justin Fields going to Chicago, I love that pick for them. I definitely feel like they have the quarterback of the future for them. And hell, if Aaron Rodgers leaves Green Bay, then I would say he's the best quarterback of the division. And I know that's put myself out there on a limb, but Jared Goff, he's a wait and see. And then who's the other? Detroit, Chicago, Kirk Cousins. I'll give him the nod for now. But I can't wait to see what Justin Fields does, because Andy Dalton's not starting over Justin Fields. I would be shocked if he did. Obviously, I love the Rashawn Slater pick for the Chargers. I love the Elijah Vera Tucker pick for the Jets. I love Elijah Moore going to the Jets. That was another good one. If you listen to my day 2, and actually no, you haven't yet. But if you listen to my day 2 when I talk about that, I love that pick for them. I know, because I'm a Chargers fan, I'm expected to talk about that. Expected to talk about my team, but just the way the draft fell to us, especially in the first 2 rounds. The picks we made in the first 2 rounds were perfect. Guys fell to us that were perfect for our scheme. So, I love the Asante Samuel Jr. pick. And, his dad was a dog, and his dad taught him everything. And you can see that in the film. And then, like I said earlier, I love the Creed Humphrey pick for the Chiefs. I love the Diami Brown pick for the Washington football team. They have a nice trio, at receiver with Terry McLaurin. They signed Curtis Samuel this offseason, and then drafting Brown. And then I love Tommy Tremble going to the Panthers. I think the Panthers are going to be good. If not this year, next year. They're going to be a solid football team. Then I love the Ben Cleveland going to the Ravens. Monster right guard. He'll start, and I mean, I feel like they just keep re-upping on linemen, and yeah, I mean I like that pick. And then Ronnie Perkins going to the Patriots. I love that pick for them, even though I hate the Patriots. He's that hybrid 3-4. He could probably be in like a stand up backer, and then he can get on the edge and he can run. That's primarily what he's gonna do, I'm assuming. But he can also be a stand up backer. And then I just went through the day 3 picks. So that is it for today. Next week, I can't wait for next week's pod. Oh, another thing, I am going to start doing. I am going to start doing podcasts once a week. It'll be some day throughout the weekend is when I'll do it. So I already have a few lined up. So I'm doing something at an event this weekend. This is recorded on Monday. I'm doing something at an event this weekend, and then I have a few kind of interviews. What I want to do going forward is kind of like informal interviews. I want it to be more of a conversation. I will ask some interview type questions, but I want it to be more of a conversation, back and forth type of thing. Because I feel like those are more entertaining, but I also want people to learn a little bit about the person, and then also what they do. And then another thing I want to try to incorporate this month. I just found this out, but May is Mental Health Awareness Month, so I'm going to try to incorporate something with that. These next few, at least one of these, try to get somebody like that on. But thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for watching. I enjoy doing these, especially talking football, because that's what I love. But yeah, so thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you next time.